Welcome back to Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Scott Vargo. My lazy eye has been steering me back towards the wrong camera, so I'm going to focus on this camera now. I'm joined by your County Commissioners, Karn, Thomas, and Dan. We're going to talk now about improvements in our Recpath for the winter. And I don't know, were all three of you at the grand opening? Just the two of you?
Well, Thomas, you were there earlier.
Oh,
I got there way too early. So, whoops. I was ready. I was ready in advance, but I wasn't there when everybody else finally got there.
Yeah. Well, sometimes being early isn't the best thing. So what we're talking about is the Recpath from the Frisco Nordic Center to the Breckenridge Nordic Center, and we finally got some permitting processed through with the U.S. Forest Service that allows that section of the pathway to be groomed. And so you want to talk a little bit about the big celebration and a little bit about how it's groomed?
Sure, I thought it was kind of funny that
did Dan win the race? That was the other thing I was going to ask.
Well,
yeah,
see,
definitely.
Dan and I came from different sides, so we had different experiences.
From my end, from Frisco, it's downhill most of the way.
I got there first. I got there first.
So you won.
Yeah.
Well, I was in Breckenridge, so I came from the Breckenridge side.
Uphill side.
Dan was in Frisco, and so he came from the Frisco side. Mm-hmm. And it was a lot of fun, and it's just a great amenity. I'm sure everyone will appreciate it if they get out there, especially if you do it right after the grooming. Mm-hmm. So it is open to all users. So don't expect it to be just perfect for just your use. Mm-hmm. If you're just a classic skier, we do ask that people try to stay out of the classic tracks so that they're there for the classic skiers. But it's corduroy for the skaters, and that corduroy will be beat up. Be aware that it will get beat up because it's also open to fat bikes and walkers and
snowshoers, dogs, wildlife,
baby skate strollers, you name it. But it's a great way to connect the two Nordic centers, Gold Run and Frisco, and all the way from the Rec Center in Breckenridge to the Dickey Day parking lot at Frisco Nordic.
Yeah, so a big shout out and thank you to the U.S. Forest Service, to the town of Frisco, to the town of Breckenridge. Town of Frisco, they'll be taking care of grooming from the Dickey Day parking lot in Frisco down to the high school, and then Breckenridge will be taking care of the rest, more or less from the high school down to the rec center. And saw them out today in the Frisco section, and it'd be great to get notice when they're doing it, so I can get right out there and get my
following the
skis.
groomers was nice.
Yeah. But I mean, for some of us Nordic folks, they have done some grooming in the past, but it's really been when the Dayton family that they're currently the proprietors for the Breckenridge Rec Center, but they also used to manage the Frisco Nordic Center as well. But they would move one groomer to the other location, and so we would get notice of that, and it was like, whippy, let's get out there and skate ski from Frisco to Breck. But it didn't happen all that often, so it's really nice to have it groomed all the time now.
Fantastic. And so again, this is a special use permit with the U.S. Forest Service. So as Dan said, thanks to them.
Yeah.
Thanks to our open space folks within the county for working on that and helping to coordinate that change in use so that Frisco and Breckenridge can have access to doing the grooming. And thanks to them for maintaining that.
Yeah, great. And I just have to add too, it's for anyone, whether you're a local or visitor, it is free. There are not a lot of locations around the state that actually have free grooming to skate, ski, or classic, or fat bike, whatever, or trail run, whatever you want to do out there. So
we've, as you might expect, already received some feedback, very positive feedback about the Recpath being groomed, but we've received some feedback about grooming other sections of the Recpath. And so it should be noted again that it's Frisco and Breck that are doing the grooming operations. The county is not involved in that piece of it.
We don't have that fancy grooming equipment.
We don't have that equipment or personnel to do that. Secondly, there are other wildlife corridor concerns among many of our other rec paths where winter use is just not appropriate, and we have avalanche concerns in a lot of different areas. For example, from Frisco to Copper, significant avalanche areas, and so it's not likely that we will be opening up winter grooming across the Recpath. There may be some other select areas where it makes some sense, but right now we don't have funding or a relationship in place for that to happen.
And we do have to go through a process with the Forest Service.
Absolutely. So just heads up for that. All right, so from skiing and winter snows to wildfire and new wildfire regulations, who wants to start off that topic?
You want me to? Sure. Well, recently we've adopted new codes to our land use and development codes that really help mirror our community wildfire protection plan that we've had in place since, I believe, 2006 is when we adopted the county-wide plan. And why is that important? Well, we used to have codes that really would almost conflict with one another, and did not look through a lens of potential, wildfire issues. This really comes as a result, I would say, of the Peak 2 fire that we had last summer. But also a few years ago, a consulting group came to us and they said, hey, can we examine your development and land use codes, and we think it's important to see if there's any conflicts, or see how you can bolster your CWPP and not just have your community wildfire protection plan like sitting on a shelf, but actually have that have some guts to it. And the consulting group came to us with a variety of different recommendations, and I'd say this is a result of some of those recommendations that they provided to us.
Good.
Do landscaping. No, do defensible space. So hopefully now our different parts of our code line up.
Yeah, and we used to be in a situation where, the more trees the better, don't cut any trees down. That clearly has some real challenges. Karin?
Well, I was just going to say that this does apply to new construction or extensive remodeling, but I would encourage all homeowners to take a look at it, and some of it is available, has always been available as recommendations, but I would take a look at it and consider what you can do with your home if it's not brand new, you're building it right now, because it really makes sense. And looking at some of the wildfires we've experienced in Colorado, especially the El Paso County fire, what was the fire? Black Forest fire. That was such a great example of where people had done the fire mitigation and the fire came through and didn't touch their homes, and where it hadn't been done, those homes were burned down. So a lot of it just has to do with the amount of landscaping and wood. Wood stacked up against your house for your firewood is not a good idea.
A wooden fence connected to your house.
Things like that.
Yeah.
So it's really in some ways common sense. It's what the fire departments have been recommending to people for many years. But it's worth everyone taking a look every spring at what you can do to make your house more defensible.
Yeah.
If you love your house, do defensible space. And the fire districts, they will come out and they will help make recommendations at no cost. And I would urge people to take advantage of that and get familiar with FireWise. Summit County, we're part of what's called the Fire Adapted Communities Network. And so I'm proud that we're a part of that network, but we really need to urge locals, visitors, everyone to be aware of what we can do here locally, and I think this is a real positive step. I'd love to see the towns also mirror what we're doing here with our codes as well.
Great. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about renewable energy, the Colorado Communities Symposium, and some water bills within the legislature.